There were many routes pioneers could take to get to Michigan. By coach, it took 30 days, by boat, it took 14 days, and by railroad, it took 2 days. The opening of the Erie Canal in 1825 eased travel to Michigan. Tickets were $20 plus $10 for every ton of freight. Settlers had to live off the land and make or bring everything they needed. They built log cabins out of cut-down maple trees. Settlers also brought things they couldn't make, such as kitchen utensils, pots and pans, books, memorials, and personal care items. Clothing, candle holders, and furniture also traveled to Michigan. Settlers also brought equipment to make fabric. Pioneer women used wheels like these to spin wool into thin fabric. Beeswax and metal candle holders like this one made candles. Because of all the chores, many children did not have time to play. Settlers made log fences to house their livestock. With no help, settlers spent long days harvesting their crops. Crops like corn, wheat, and potatoes. Axes were used to help clear the lands and for protection. Children's chores included using brushes to smooth out the wool and fetching water using yokes from local streams. With more and more people in a certain area, schoolhouses were invented to educate children. Early schoolhouses were made from logs and had open fireplaces. But by 1880, newer stone or brick schoolhouses were built with heated stoves inside. Students had their own desks and were equipped with a slate pencil, ink, pen, and practice paper. Schoolhouses also had teacher desks and pianos for reciting lessons to music. The subjects students studied at this time were physiology, hygiene, spelling, arithmetic, business math, penmanship, and geography. In Michigan in 1871, a law was passed requiring that all the nation's children attend school for at least 4 months a year. Middle-class homes were also changing and developing during this time. Parlors and dining rooms were invented for entertaining weddings and funerals. It was now customary to have your kitchen separate from your dining room, where the cooking was. In-home stoves were also used to cook meals inside. With the invention of water pumps, running water was now accessible inside the home. Using ice picks, people could bring ice in to use for frozen foods. Meats and dairy, such as ice cream, could now be kept for longer periods of time. Newer houses also had personal bedrooms, which offered privacy. Gas-powered lamps, which lit the bedrooms and hallways, was also popular during this time. Indoor plumbing was not invented yet, but people used bedpans. With the new modern conveniences, children had more time for play. But they still had chores, and most of them were outside in the barn, such as taking care of the chickens and collecting eggs for breakfast, driving horses on the plow to clear land for crops, collecting ice chips for the freezer, and using shearing scissors to cut the sheep's coat for wool. Homes of the 1930s and 40s now could afford electricity. During the Depression, many families moved in together in one middle-class home. It was now essential to have a family radio for news and entertainment. Radios could be bought at the general store. It ranged from anywhere from $56 to $600. Other minor conveniences at this time were irons and plug-in vacuums, such as this Eureka. Clothing also became less about practicality and more about design and style. In the 1950s, the most ideal place for a family to live was the suburbs. Families filled their houses with modern appliances and furniture. In competition to own the best appliances, many families bought on credit. In-home black and white TVs also became affordable during this time period. The first supermarkets also opened in the 1950s, where housewives could get everything they wanted in a one-stop shop. Other minor conveniences in the 1950s were electric mixers, dual-temperature fridges with both refrigeration and freezing. Also, foods such as Velveeta and TV dinners were invented during this time period. In-home dishwashers were also affordable now. Many new medications were also on the market. Medications like antidepressants, antipsychotics, and antibiotics. In the throes of the Cold War, many Americans made bomb shelters. Both Russia and America had nuclear weapons. The government gave out pamphlets on what to do during a nuclear attack, and sent out other war propaganda about how civilians can fight back. The government even made pamphlets for jobs for men and women to do after a nuclear attack had occurred, and how to protect yourself if you didn't make it to a bomb shelter in time. Most bomb shelters were very small and could only take the most necessary of items. Blankets, medicines, radio, and dry food were usually stored in the shelters. Most of the supplies were only enough to last a few weeks to a few months. Sanitation kits were also necessary for human waste. Barrels of drinking water were also key to survival.